What's going on, everybody? This is Soulful bringing you guys episode 7 of Surviving Mars. Hope everybody has been enjoying this Let's Play series so far. I've been enjoying it so much. It's really great getting a chance to go back and play this particular game once again, and I've been enjoying it very much so. I hope everybody has been enjoying it for the 7 episodes that we have already gone ahead and created, or the 6 previous episodes. In the last episode, we went ahead and we got pretty much everything organized for us to be able to send colonists. The only reason why we did not go ahead and send the colonist rocket the last time is because we were waiting for some research to get completed. And what that research would do would actually allow us, instead of just only sending 12 colonists in that very first rocket, we'll be able to send up 22 colonists. So I wanted to make sure we got that research completed. That's the reason why we got the Explorer robot out here collecting these anomalies. The ones that have little beakers on top of them are actual research points. So basically, the more and more we collect them, the faster we can breeze through some of the research. And that's basically what the beginning portion of this time lapse is really for. We're actually just making sure we have all the research that we have completed, so that way we can make sure the colonists that do show up on Mars will have all the current upgrades that they will need. All the structures for the outside buildings for work and all the structures for the inside of the dome have all been completed, so we are ready to go on that. So basically what we're going to do is right now we're just going to make sure everything has been organized. We made sure we have enough materials in our last supply rocket that was shipped up. Right now I'm actually realizing that this particular concrete depot has resources. We're dismantling it so we can continue to extract more concrete, because as you the area is a lot more larger than we have already used, so we still have more that we can get to. So I'm going to go ahead and reposition the concrete extractor, and then once we go ahead, I'm going to come back and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the filters. Alright, so right here I'm taking a look at the research tree. The research that I was referring to is the compact passenger module that allows us to add an additional 10 more colonists to a passenger rocket. Initially you only get 12 with your first rocket, but with that upgrade completed, we'll get to send up 22, which is actually going to be perfect, because when you send your first rocket, the one stipulation that you have to deal with is that you have to be able to sustain life on Mars for a period of up to 10 days. So you can't send any more ships of colonists to Mars for that first 10-day incubation period, and being able to send up 22 colonists will be perfect. That allows us to be able to make sure we have colonists to work in the mines, we have colonists that'll be able to work on the farm, and colonists that'll be able to work inside buildings like the infirmary and the restaurant and the grocer. So that's the reason why right now we're just trying to make sure we get all the research points so we can finish that particular research skill, and hopefully we can get that rocket situated and get some people up on Mars.
Breakthrough discovered. Sector scanned. Anomaly found. Vehicle battery low. Research complete. Anomaly analyzed.
Alright, so right here, this is where I realized that the research that we were waiting on has been completed. I go ahead and we make sure we are not wasting any research by getting the Explorer robot to continue picking up those anomalies with the beaker symbols. That way the rest of the ones that we have sitting in the tree that have been queued up will be completed a lot faster, and the sooner we can get those done, those additional upgrades will help us in the long term for when we get the colonists up onto Mars.
Sector scanned. Anomaly found.
Alright, so at this point, I feel we are ready. I go ahead and I check through my filters. Remember in the last episode we set up the filters for the colonist rocket, but we wanted to make sure everything has been confirmed. I did make a few changes, but those changes don't really make a whole lot of a difference because they didn't really add that much more people to it. So rocket capacity, see it says 22. We had 14 colonists that matched our requirements because we're going with all specified colonists. We are not bringing any no specs for the first shipment. So we go ahead and we get 14 people up there for that first rocket to come to Mars. Right now what we're doing is we're just basically, it's a waiting game. We're waiting on the rocket to show up. We're finishing off some more anomalies to get those research points added all up. And I think these are like the last few research points that are available at the bottom portion of the map. Yeah, so that's what it is. The section that I'm currently scanning is actually a plateau that's like above the lower level where we originally are settling the colony. And the only way to get up to that top plateau, we're going to have to set up another tunnel from the lower portion up to the top area. But first, we want to get an established colony with our actual individuals from Earth on Mars before we go ahead and make that move.
Cable fault reported. Sector scanned. Anomaly found. Research complete.
Alright, so I think we are almost to that point where we have gotten everything situated. I'm just making sure the transport robot moves some concrete over. A few of the buildings need maintenance, so I want to make sure that is completed before we land the rocket as well. You can't land the rocket during dust storms, so we're just waiting for that to complete. Alright, so we're waiting for that dust storm to end, and we're going to get these colonists onto Mars as soon as possible. Now here's the point where I go ahead and get the rocket situated to land, and I kind of made a little small boo-boo. I actually landed it too far from the dome, thinking it was a good thing so the dust doesn't kick up and cause damage to the dome itself, which would require additional maintenance. I forgot to pause the game first.
Milestone achieved.
And right there, I was rushing to try and get all the buildings turned on.
New colonists have arrived.
And the machine told me that the colonists came in. I didn't catch that port, but you see the colonists running into the dome. So here we go, guys. Our first colonists are on Mars. The colony is finally on its way. We are definitely the first ones on Mars, and I am super excited. As you can see, the farm is working, making sure all the buildings are reactivated. Like I said, I turned them off so that way they don't draw power and things. But now, we have to get them activated so that way the people have access to them. See the gentleman standing on top of the apartment complex, reading a book on the bench. And it's just a really humbling feeling just playing this portion of the game. Once you finally get all that work, all that hard effort to see your colonists walking around in the dome, handling their normal daily tasks, is absolutely amazing. So what I'm actually doing right now is I'm actually making sure we have the proper work shifts for each of the buildings. The farm only allows one work shift, so I'll always set that for the very early morning shift. But for the restaurant and the infirmary and the grocer, you want to make sure you have those first two shifts allocated. Once you get more of a thriving colony, then you can do that third shift. This is when I basically realized that I had the ship too far out. The RC commander is just not going to be able to reach the ship. There's food on the ship that we need to get off. Luckily, there is a farm, so they were able to make food for the first couple days, so that did help. But now we need to go ahead and put down some some storage bays so we can get the food off of the actual rocket and have it somewhere where they can place it and close to the actual ship. So that's what we're doing right now.
Sector scanned. Milestone achieved.
So right here you can see the little robots are moving the food. We actually had our second crop go through, and that did actually go through very well and provided quite a bit of food for the extra colony. So the robots are moving that food as well over to the storage space. So right now, basically at this point, what we're doing is we're just making sure everything is organized. We're making sure that the colonists are satisfied and are happy. We're also making sure that the outside buildings that we had turned off, they're also going to start getting activated so we can get them out there mining us some rare metals, mining us some money that we can send back to Earth. And that money will help us be able to add more funding for other things. Basically watching the rocket, watching them go ahead and unload the rocket for the food. Once we get the food all completely unloaded, then we can definitely see about getting that rocket refueled and shipped back to Earth. As you saw, I just activated the rare metal extractor. This should allow us to start making money, and we get 2 geologists in there. There is a way you can filter each thing, like each domes. You can filter the extractors. You can, well, the ones that are manned by humans, you can actually allocate them so it's either a specialty location where only people that are in that specialized field works there, or you can just have it anybody can work there. Beginning, don't filters. Just even though a person that people just work those jobs because you need that resource, and that's something that you're gonna have to deal with as part of playing this game. Once you start dealing with like bringing in no specs, those individuals will also need to be trained in specifics like geology, medics, officers. And that's where you can search a university so you can train those specs to learn those specialized skills. So right now, basically everything has been taken off of the ship. I moved the RC commander over a little bit so that way the robots can start moving around the resources or materials that we had just laying around in the area. They're still able to reach the ship, and that was a good thing.
Sector scanned.
So taking a look at the map again, we're just taking a look to see what areas can now be queued up. Pretty much most of the map has been scanned. The areas that really have not been scanned are not flat surfaces. So they're not really areas that either the robots, like the Explorer robot, the Transport robot, or the RC Commander can actually travel to. So those areas will basically be areas that we don't necessarily need to scan or waste time scanning. But you want to make sure all the flat areas are scanned, because you can find water or other materials or even more anomalies in those areas. So you want to make sure they all are scanned. And that's what we went ahead and made sure that's all queued up. We only currently have one rare metal extractor active, and that is fine. For right now, we only have 2 individuals working in there on that early morning shift, and they're basically only mining us 1 rare metal per day. But as we get more colonists onto Mars, or even if we start getting our colonists to start making kids, which that is something able to do, they start making babies, and once they start making babies, you know, the colony expands, and then we can get more extractors opened up, and we can create more domes, and the colony will continue to thrive and grow. And that's the whole objective of this game, to try and get a fully thriving colony working on Mars. And then once we start moving further into this, we start getting more people in, then you'll start seeing where the storyline mystery will start to interact with the gameplay. And that's actually going to really change the way this Let's Play is going to be played. And a lot of you guys are going to really enjoy that part, because that's where the enjoyment really comes in. Once you start seeing how the storyline interacts with your colonists, and how they start interacting with the different things that they're seeing and how they respond, it's really kind of interesting that the developers took the time out to sit there and think, okay, so how will we react to this type of situation or that type of situation, or how would people, you know, spiritually or religiously react to these type of things. And you're going to see a lot of that in the storyline that I actually chose for the mystery of this particular Let's Play.
Cable fault reported. Sector scanned.
Alright, so right here I am noticing that there quite a bit of our infrastructure is needing repair, and we have run out of machine parts. I told you that could possibly happen. That's why you always want to make sure you have a whole bunch of them on stock. So we're going to do a resupply ship right at this point. We're going to send up a bunch of food, machine parts, electronics. We're not really using as many polymers, so we're not going to bring that many of those, but we're going to bring some additional drones up. The drones can be useful because we can add them to the RC Commander as additional robots that he can carry. As well, we want to add some additional robots to the new drone area once we put down a new hub. The robot that you just saw climb into the ship, that robot actually was carrying some rare metals from the rare metals extractor. We're getting that prepared to be shipped back to Earth, so that way we can get some additional funding. Right now, the colonists, based on their ratings, they are happy in this particular dome, so the colony is definitely thriving very well. So right now, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to cut this video at this point. Definitely hope you guys are enjoying this video. Please, if you do, smack that like button. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will catch you guys later. I am Soulful. Have a wonderful evening.